Before I tell you this story, I need you to pause. Look around you. Think about the person you trust most in this world. Your best friend, the one who knows your dreams, your fears, your mother's name, your bank balance, everything. Now ask yourself one question. What if that person was never really your friend at all? This is the story of Sarah Mensah, 19 years old, beautiful soul, hardworking hands, and a heart so pure. It never once imagined that the person walking beside her was already selling her. Before she even knew she was for sale, every morning Sarah woke up before the sun. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. 2 jobs, a sick mother, and a dream she held so tightly, her hands bled. She never complained, she never asked why, she just kept moving. Because that's what love does. It keeps moving, even when it's exhausted, even when it's breaking, even when danger is already smiling at it from across the room. Jennifer was watching. She was always watching. Behind every like on Sarah's photos, behind every smile at Sarah's good news, behind every hug that lasted just a second too long. Jennifer was calculating. And when that message arrived on her phone, 5,000. For a referral. For a girl. Young, pretty, naive. Jennifer didn't delete it. She didn't call the police. She didn't warn Sarah. She looked at Sarah's face on her screen, and she made a choice. A choice she would spend the next 12 years of her life paying for. Jennifer ran to Sarah like she had good news. And here is what made it so cruel. She did it perfectly. The excitement in her voice, the warmth in her eyes, the way she grabbed Sarah's hands like she actually cared. Sarah had no reason to doubt her. This was her best friend, her person, the girl who cried at her mother's hospital bed, the girl who shared her last meal with her. So when Jennifer said, "I found you a job," Sarah smiled. She actually smiled. And somewhere across the city, Madam Faith was already preparing a room. David saw them from across the street, and something moved in his chest. Not love, not jealousy, something older than both, something primal, a warning. He called out to Sarah. She laughed and waved. She looked happy. She looked safe. She was neither. And as he watched Jennifer pull her away, that feeling in his chest grew louder, like a whisper trying to become a scream. Sarah's mother held her daughter's hand that night and smiled. But mothers know things. They feel things in their bones long before the mind catches up. She smiled because Sarah needed her to. But after Sarah left the room, she stared at the ceiling for a very long time, praying to a God she hoped was listening. She had no idea her prayer was already racing against a clock that had already started counting down. The car was sleek, black, silent, the kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like held breath. Sarah watched the city disappear behind her, street by street, building by building, until there was nothing familiar left. She reached for her phone to text her mother. 2 ticks, then 1 gray tick. No signal. She told herself it was nothing, just bad network, just a long drive, just a new beginning. She had no idea it was an ending. Madam Faith was not what Sarah expected. She was not cold. She was not rough. She was not what you imagine when you imagine a monster. She was warm, elegant, the kind of woman who made you feel immediately, completely, dangerously safe. And that was exactly the point, because the most effective traps never look like traps. They look like open doors. They look like opportunities. They look like answered prayers. Sarah walked in smiling. The gate closed behind her. And Jennifer took the money. Without looking back, without a single word, without even saying goodbye. The hug she gave Sarah at that gate was the last honest thing she would ever give her. Rose spoke in a whisper so thin it could have been the wind. But Sarah heard every word. There is no job. There is no reception desk. There is no way out. Not easily, not safely. Sarah felt the floor shift beneath her. The beautiful compound, the warm smile, the elegant woman, the promise of a better life. all of it, dissolving, like sugar in water, until nothing was left but the bitter truth. And then Marcus appeared at the door, hand outstretched, waiting for her phone. And Sarah, brave, strong, unbreakable Sarah, felt something she had never felt before in her 19 years of life, completely and utterly alone. While Sarah sat in the dark that night, Jennifer was eating, new earrings catching the restaurant light, fresh nails wrapped around a glass. She had already moved on, or so she told herself. But then her mother called, and the name David, and the word crying. And for one moment, just one, Jennifer's fork stopped moving. She stared at her plate, and in the reflection of that glass, if you looked closely enough, you could see it. The thing she was trying so desperately to eat away. Her conscience, still alive, still whispering, not yet, but soon, very soon. It would stop whispering altogether and start screaming. 3 days, no phone, no sunlight, no mother's voice. Sarah counted every hour on the wall beside her bed, scratching small marks like prisoners do in movies. She never thought she'd understand that image. Now she did. Rose told her about the window, the 3 a.m. guard change, the gravel road beyond the gate. It was dangerous. It was uncertain. It might not work. But Sarah looked Rose in the eyes and said 4 words that would change both their lives. I don't break promises. And somewhere in the city, her mother was still awake, still praying, still waiting for a call that had not come. That night, both of them made a decision to hold on. Just one more day. David went to the police, and the police did what they sometimes do when a young man walks in with nothing but a feeling. They looked away. But David was not built for giving up. He made one more call, a name his uncle had given him once, a detective who people said never let things go, never let cases go cold, never stopped. Detective Ama Boateng. He dialed the number. His hands were shaking. He didn't know it yet, but that call was the beginning of the end for Madame Faith. Ama listened. She always listened. Where others heard a worried boy overreacting about a girl who probably just needed space. Ama heard a pattern. 4 girls, 14 months, same story, same black car, same silence after. She pulled the files, spread them across her desk, and there it was, the thread, thin as a whisper, but it was there. She picked up her pen, wrote one name, Jennifer Osei, and underlined it, twice. They came to her door quietly. No sirens, no drama, just 2 plainclothes officers and a question, and Jennifer, who had rehearsed her calm for 3 days, fell apart in 30 seconds. Because guilt is a heavy thing to carry, and Jennifer had been running on adrenaline and denial. The moment someone looked her in the eye and asked the right question, her legs forgot how to hold her up. She said Madame Faith's name, without meaning to, and just like that, the clock ran out. For everyone, 3 a.m. The compound was breathing slowly, guards rotating, dogs settling, the world almost quiet. Almost. Sarah moved through the dark like she had been training for this her whole life, every nerve in her body screaming, every instinct saying run, every shadow looking like Marcus. They reached the kitchen, found the window, and then footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming closer. Sarah grabbed the metal tray. She didn't think. She just acted. The clatter echoed. Marcus turned, and 2 girls slipped through a window into the cold, dark night on bare feet and pure will. They ran, and they did not stop. Not for the gravel cutting their feet, not for the branches in their faces, not for the burning in their lungs. They ran because stopping was not an option. Stopping meant going back, and neither of them was ever going back. The truck appeared like an answered prayer. Headlights cutting through the dark road. 2 girls, barefoot, breathless, terrified. The driver stopped. He didn't ask many questions, he just opened the door. And sometimes, that is enough. Sometimes the world sends you exactly what you need at exactly the right moment. To remind you that not everyone is Jennifer, not everyone is Madame Faith. Some people just stop and open the door And that changes everything. Detective Amma arrived at dawn, when the world was still gray, still quiet, still deciding what kind of day it wanted to be. The officers moved in silence, and Madame Faith opened the door in her silk robe, still composed, still smiling, the smile of a woman who has never been caught, who has never been challenged, who believes herself untouchable. "Can I help you, detective?" Amma looked at her for a long moment. She had looked at this face in files for months, in missing persons reports, in the tears of families. "Yes," she said. "You can put your hands behind your back." And the smile, finally, disappeared. Marcus was found at the back gate. Bag of cash, handful of phones, including one with 17 unread messages, all from the same contact. "Mama." He didn't resist. Men like Marcus never do when the game is finally over. They just go quiet, like they were never really there at all. They came back for Jennifer with handcuffs this time. No more questions, no more chances. She walked out of her front door past the neighbors who watched, past the children who stopped playing, past her mother who stood in the doorway with a hand over her mouth and tears she couldn't stop. Jennifer said nothing. There was nothing left to say. The new earrings, the fresh nails, the restaurant meal, the 5,000, none of it was worth this walk. This terrible, public, unforgettable walk. Down the same street where she and Sarah had walked as children, laughing, safe, together. Karma doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it just walks you back through your own memories and lets you feel every single one. Sarah's mother walked into that hospital room and stopped. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She just stopped and looked at her daughter. The way you look at something you thought you had lost forever. Sarah looked back, and every wall she had built to survive those days crumbled. She cried the way people cry when they finally feel safe enough to. Deep, shaking, releasing. David stood at the door, head bowed, relieved beyond words. And in the next bed, Rose watched. No mother coming, no family rushing in, just her, alone, the way she had always been, until Sarah looked over and reached out her hand. And Rose, who had forgotten what it felt like to have someone choose her, took it and held on. The courtroom was silent when they brought them in. Madame Faith, no silk, no smile, just a woman finally the right size. Marcus, still expressionless. Even now, some people leave this world the same way they moved through it, without feeling. And Jennifer, she looked older, like those months had taken something from her that sleep couldn't return. She scanned the room and found Sarah's eyes. Sarah looked back at her. No tears, no anger, just a long, steady, unmovable gaze. The gaze of someone who has been through fire and come out the other side and no longer fears the flame. Jennifer looked away first. She always would. The judge spoke. 25 years. 20 years, 12 years. Numbers that used to be abstract, now they were walls, and doors that don't open from the inside. And silence. A very long silence. Months later. Sarah sat at a desk, books open, a scholarship with her name on it, her mother's tea cooling beside her hand. Rose across the table, sharing the same page, David waving from outside the window. And for a moment, just a moment, Sarah paused, pen in hand, and thought about Jennifer. Not with hatred, not with bitterness, just thought about her, about the girl she used to be, about the choice she made, about how one decision, one moment of greed dressed up as opportunity had unraveled an entire life. And Sarah made a quiet promise to herself, to never become so hungry for a better life that she forgot what made life worth living in the first place. Jennifer had everything Sarah had, the same street, the same struggles, the same chances, the same starting line. The only difference was one choice, one cold, calculated, irreversible choice. And karma, patient, quiet, it never forgets. It doesn't rush, it doesn't shout, it simply waits. And then one day, when you least expect it, it whispers your name, the way you once whispered someone else's into the wrong hands. This has been Whisper Tales. If this story moved you, share it. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. Subscribe, and remember, every secret has a sound. You just have to know how to listen.